Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for being here this evening. I appreciate such a good turnout on what is a beautifully warm evening with a sort of reasonably important semi-final being played at Wimbledon at the moment. So I'm surprised you're not all on Henman Hill rather than here watching me. As Shaheen said, I'm Geoff Hackett. Well, I am at the moment. If this goes all right, I'll still be Geoff Hackett when it's finished. Otherwise, I'll be Georgie Brown and somebody else when we're getting into the end of the evening. I usually start off with a slide that looks like that, and with an audience that hasn't been pre-warned that I might be talking about earth homes. And when I start off with a slide like that, that slide usually begs the question, if we're going to solve the world's biggest problem, the first thing we have to do is to say, what is the world's biggest problem? And when I ask that question to different groups of people, I get some very different and some very interesting answers. So I've just put a few down here for you. The world's biggest problem. It's amazing how often that comes up. Also, what comes up is my other half, and this one comes up quite a bit as well. Of course, not everybody is a comedian. Some of us are serious thinkers, and they tend to come up with things like hate, tolerance, and good old corruption. We've a few more, the concerned. And the concerned really have politics, often comes up, capitalism, socialism, dictatorship, democracy, lefties, and the right wing. It's actually interesting sometimes to see some of the groups that come up with these really. So we get the big picture thinkers, and we're out moving into the area where the problems really are, the problems that face the world today, the bigger problems of war, the issues of religion, the issues of economics, the issues of population control, and the more thinking and positioning types like morality and good old ethical decline. Eventually, though, of course, we get on to the real focus of what are the world's great problems. What are the big problems, the global issues? Famine, health, or maybe the lack of health, education, or maybe really the lack of education, peak production, climate change, and housing. Different people really will tend to focus on different of these as being the global problem of the day and the time. The one I get really concerned about is housing. Before I come on to that, let's just have a look at one or two of the others and why I've dismissed them and put housing at the top of the list when it comes to answering the world's greatest problem. Peak production, which is in the middle there. I don't know if everybody is aware of what peak production means or the reference that's made to peak production. But peak production really is about all the reserves we have in the world, all the fossil reserves, oil, coal, mineral reserves, etc., etc. The fact is that through geologists and through research over the last 100 years or so, we actually now know more or less to the barrel how many barrels of oil there are there for exploration. We know roughly how much iron ore we've got, we know roughly how much coal we've got, we know roughly how much steel we've got, we know roughly how much gold we've got, we roughly know whatever we have in the Earth's reserves. We also happen to know what's in the sea now pretty well to a fair extent, and we know what swims in it, what will provide food for us and what provides food for others, and we know roughly what the resources within that sea. We actually know what we have there and what the resources are. The frightening thing is that with most of those resources, and particularly with the fossil fuel resources, we are reaching what is termed as peak production, and in fact with some we are past peak production. That means we are producing more on a daily basis than the Earth can offer up to us on a sustained basis. So that means the resource is going to run out. Now with iron ore, for instance, and aluminium and all those sort of things, we can reuse an awful lot of it because we can just remelt down and we go on again. With gold, we possibly don't need to take any more out of the Earth. We may well have enough of it to hang around our necks and put on our watch chains and everything else to balance our accounts. But we do know what we have, and we do know where we're up to. And in actual fact, because we have that knowledge, then we should be able to manage and control it. Climate change. And climate change, I'm sure, is one that vexes an awful lot of people here, and it vexes an awful lot of people around the world. Climate change is a very, very difficult topic because it was only 25 years ago that the scientists were telling us we were heading for an ice age. And now, of course, we're heading for global warming at some rate and at some real rate. One of the great problems about climate change, though, is the fact that climate change will go on and will continue to go on to a certain extent no matter what we do. It only takes one massive volcano, one major earthquake, one small natural catastrophe to actually put as much carbon into the air as we can put into the air over 10 or 12 years. So in effect, Mother Nature can do as much in this game as we can do in this game. Now that is not saying that we should not do every single solitary possible thing we can about it. We have to deal with it. We have to do something. We have to cut our emissions. We have to stop being stupid with our planet, because believe you me, we will not have a planet if we don't change. The problem of the problem is that it's a problem which will continue to a certain extent irrespective of what we do, and it needs other people to deal with it, and sometimes it's a little bit beyond our direct control.